Brilliant. Hey everyone, my name's Craig. I am the co-founder of BEAR. We're a coffee house, kitchen and bar, and we've also got an online e-commerce site where you can buy our wonderful coffee and drink it at home. I'm with Owen.
Hello.
He'll introduce himself.
Thanks. I'm a big boy, all by myself.
Yeah,
so
all by yourself.
Thanks, Mom.
You have permission.
Thanks. My name's Owen, and I own Chartley Coffee and second generation family coffee roasters, only down the road from where BEAR first started. And I've had the pleasure, in inverted commas, of knowing Craig and Michael for many years. So here we are.
Yeah, there you go. So we've got a great relationship with Chartley. We roast all of our coffee over in Hickson, so we're really excited about that. And part of that relationship led us to pods. So some of our customers that know that we absolutely love coffee, we've been passionate about coffee since 2016, you'll know that we're always striving to serve the best coffee we can. We've been serving 6 ounce flat whites. I think back when people were drinking coffees about this big, we just threw out a 6 ounce flat white into Uttoxeter, and people were probably like, whoa, like what even is this? So they know that we value
and it
coffee.
was a Thailand single origin house as well.
Doi Chang.
There was a lot for people to take in. There's like the farmers coming in ordering a flat white.
It's brilliant. So you could say, drop in like an 18 gram, 20 gram shot from an espresso machine to 5.4, 5.5 grams in a pod. Like, why would you do that? Like, what led us down that route? And I think for me, and then we'll say how the conversation started. For me, it was always that we wanted to make sure that we could get the best coffee to someone in the most convenient way that helped them experience what we were so passionate about. And whilst we'd love everyone to have phenomenal espresso machines at home, maybe one day, I'm looking at Owen now, maybe one day we'll design our own espresso machine for home.
Yeah, like the day after tomorrow.
Yeah. We'll do it then. But for now, whilst we're working on the espresso machine at home, we've got these, and they're amazing. Like you can buy a pack of these, or you can buy from many different roasters, many different types, and we'll talk about the different types that you can get. But for us, we went for this particular pod. It fits your espresso machine. You can drink great coffee at home. If you want it a bit stronger, you can whack 2, 3, 4, whatever takes your fancy. But there's a reason why we chose pods, and it was because we wanted to make sure people could drink good coffee at home. I mean, what's your experience of these? Like, you've got the setup, you put our coffee in these pods. Like, what's your experience of these?
Yeah, I mean, because you're always restricted unless you commit to, like you say, a bigger machine, a lot of kitchen surface space, which is a premium in my house, and also your own grinder, and then you get into the issues of freshness because you don't drink enough when you're at home and all this kind of stuff. And ultimately, you can have filter pour overs, you can play with AeroPresses, but they all have the same kind of issues of either faff, and don't get me wrong, obviously kind of mental about coffee, but it's like, even myself, I've got 3 kids, it's like sometimes in the morning I don't have 25 minutes, whatever, to go through my perfect, if I was me living on an island, coffee setup. But also, like, you still want something that's pumped, in the sense that you can grind the coffee so much finer, like you would with a traditional espresso machine, to get that specific kind of body out of a coffee that it's really hard to get out of a pour over or a cafetiere or all the other various methods of making it. And you can mess around with mocha pots and stuff like that, but again, you're still into the big realms of faff, whereas with what is basically a 40-50 quid entry machine, which takes up almost no space on your kitchen table, even just chucking the car and going somewhere, if we're going away for a weekend or something, and you can transport it with you and just recreate something that's not a million miles away. You have to see it as not an exact replacement, obviously, for an 18-20 gram shot, but as long as you go into it knowing that it's not going to be like for like, and see it as its own kind of class of coffee experience, then you can actually be pleasantly surprised. And that's why we kind of went into it with loads of experimenting, partly with yourself, that we got to that confidence where we were like, actually, we can make this be a really tasty product, even in its own right, basically.
Yeah, and like you said, it's the start of a journey. We've got a pod here, and we can explore what that means. But there's a few things that you mentioned that reminded me of those early conversations about when we decided to do pods. And grind size. You mentioned grind. Not like, let's be honest, not everyone's got a grinder at home, or the grinder that they've got, actually the results of that are going to be inferior. If someone's hasn't got a burr grinder and they've got a blade grinder, we know that it's not going to produce the same results. Whereas as a coffee roaster and a coffee brand, having control of that grind gives us much more confidence that the customer is going to experience the product in the way that we believe it needs to be experienced, and that comes from having control of the grind. I think that's correct, right?
Yeah, I mean, even commercial, most commercial sites, they're one of the biggest battles for professional people producing coffee, and you've got it in your stores. You spend an absurd amount of time constantly calibrating the grinders. Your head baristas and baristas throughout the day are always calibrating grinders, and it's just a constant battle, and that's like a professional outfit. That's coffee is like a core part of its brand, let alone someone at home where coffee is just like one of like 50,000 things they're trying to think of. So for them to just be able to outsource that to someone like yourselves and ourselves to say, look, I just want this product to taste good, and I push the button, I don't want to have to think about it. I love coffee, but I don't want to have to invest like 10% of my free time to get it, basically.
Yeah.
It's just like, which for some is absolutely great, and for myself too sometimes, that's a separate kind of thing. But for people who just want to have a really good experience without all of the overheads to it, and like yourself, and for you to be able to also control a bit more of the product quality yourself as well, and keep that on within your side of your control, definitely is a huge plus.
Yes, so. And before we won't go down the rabbit hole of sustainability right now, but you touched on a little bit of it there, wastage. Now, I know that people will talk about, are pods sustainable? And if you click on the link in the description, or you click on a link on the video, we can talk to you about sustainability. We can talk to you about the different types of pods you can get and the impact that they have. But having a grinder at home, having a coffee set up at home, if you're not using it frequently, you will ultimately waste an amount of coffee setting up to make that one coffee in the morning. So there's an element of waste of the coffee anyway, and we know that coffee, it's finite. It isn't everywhere. There's documented issues around the supply of coffee into the UK and into the world, and how much it's grown. So we know that wasting coffee is definitely not a good thing. So we want to make sure we've got some.
I don't know. I'm a coffee roaster. I think I don't mind if coffee wasted. Just fine. It's fine. Just
See, I'm trying to save you guys money.
I'm a capitalist monster. That's what it is. That's why I got into it. But yeah.
One other thing you touched on was, I feel like, looks at the ease of use. So you've got 3 kids, I've got 2 kids. Now I'm going to break some stereotypes. We're gonna mention a few things now that could get me in trouble. You're laughing.
I'm not. It's a nervous laughter.
So my 6-year-old can make coffee at home. He absolutely loves drinking iced flat whites. Now, before...
To be clear, that's like the most first world pretentious thing I've heard for some time.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want to get taken down by everyone that says you are the worst parent in the world. It's decaf. So if you're...
I was about to say my kids can make great cocktails, but okay.
If you want a good espresso martini, come round. Isaac can just knock one of them out.
Don't let them drink it. It's fine.
But in terms of like usability, Isaac can come down and he can just whack a pod. He whacks a decaf pod in the machine. He'll get the milk. Like, he puts a little bit of syrup in. Not gonna lie, he hasn't quite got the taste buds ready yet. This doesn't reflect on the quality of the coffee. But he puts his caramel syrup in. He puts his ice in. He gets his espresso, and he's making an iced flat white. And he's 6 years old. But that's how easy it is. It's easy for someone to access the journey of coffee, which is what BEAR's all about. We want to make sure people can go on a journey with us, understand what the product is, and this is the beginning of something. It's a step away from instant. Nothing against instant, but everything against instant.
If you don't mind me, I've got a few things about instant. Not like the quality of it, but also this, when you're talking about sustainability, that's the thing that anyway, I'll tangent onto that, but what you were saying about the choice bit of it, and I think that's where, Nespresso, who can speak to their motivation for doing these capsules in the first place for this system, but one of the things that I think attracted all people originally was, if you've got a grinder and you've got your 250 grams of beans, that's great, and if you love that coffee, that's great, but especially if you're new to coffee, or you're using it as part of a bigger family where there's multiple people in the household, where one person likes a really strong coffee, someone likes a really mild coffee, or you want something for after dinner if you've got like friends around and it's after food, or something in the morning to wake you up. It's the fact that you don't have to take your beans out, purge your burrs, put in new ones, reset the grind.
Don't take your beans out, mate.
Well, exactly. That's just
just careful.
So you've already opened Pandora's box and the window into your lifestyle, mate. With your kids making iced coffees and God knows what. But yeah.
Sorry, Alex.
So yeah, the fact that you can literally just. You don't, wasting 50 grams or 100 grams resetting your grind for a different origin or whatever. You can just put a capsule in, press the button, and you'd be like, I feel like this one now, and put a different capsule and press the button. And in terms of like that thing of being able to experience different coffees and try different flavors and origins and processes and that without like a massive formal setup and thousand pounds worth of equipment and an endless time, it is kind of cool that you can just discover new flavors like in an incredibly cheap and accessible way, even if they're not perfectly representative of a perfect espresso coffee. You can definitely pick out, that's a bright acidic Central American, or that's a natural fruity weird kind of African coffee. Like, you can pick all those out with an espresso capsule still, and it's a good gateway drug into hardcore coffee later. It's fine.
We're trying to bring you in slowly, but in all seriousness, we've got four roasts at the moment, and we've spent a lot of time at the roastery just exploring, drinking lots of pods out there to see what are people giving, and lots do taste the same, because there's that intention to just roast dark to compensate for the fact that it's 5 grams, whereas actually we really wanted to break down what we were looking for in that coffee, how we wanted it to taste, what different coffees we can put in a pod, like the Robusta one that we've got, where we know, like, personally, I'm not a massive fan of drinking Robusta coffee. It's just not for my taste profile. That doesn't make it not good, because we sell it. It's a really good pod, but it's not something that I would drink. But I've got the option to drink something different, and like, you'll be the same. Yeah, we spent a lot of time just exploring what we could put in these.
Yeah, I think it's worth just touching on what's pants about pods, like in terms of the actual the restrictions or limitations, and perhaps the fact that there's only 5.4-ish grams of coffee is a really small amount, because people still want to put it in like a full-size cup. Yeah. And that's the challenge. So the ratio of how much actual coffee and flavour you can get out of that, and yet dilute it with so much water or milk and things like that, is a real challenge. And that is why traditionally Nespresso pods have always been very, very dark roasted coffee, not because that gets you extra coffee flavour, but it gets you extra roast flavour, and so they all start to merge into this kind of roasty hell. So that's it. The temptation would be to just go down that path, and when you do it a bit lighter, it'll open up to some people. If they taste it not expecting it, they'll just be a bit like, oh, this doesn't taste very strong, and so part of it is a bit of an education as well, and kind of staying true to what we kind of do roasting, or what you guys do with your coffee, that you don't want to roast it past the point where you're just covering up the actual origin flavour of the coffee and the processed flavours of the coffee, because that's a lot about what your coffee is all about, isn't it?
Yeah. So and it's like you said, it's how you approach it. If you're approaching it from an instant coffee perspective in terms of price or price per cup, then it's the wrong kind of mentality. The way you need to approach a pod is the fact that how much is a coffee in a coffee shop, where you're not paying just for the coffee, you're paying for the environment that you're in, the staff that are serving it to you, the experience that you have, the moment that it creates. That's the price of a coffee in a shop. And then you're stepping back and you're looking at how much does it cost, and you can get pods anywhere from 20p a pod to £1 a pod, or more, depending on the origin. But that's still a lower price point than a coffee in a coffee shop, which I'm not saying don't do that, but I'm saying if you approach it from the mentality of a price of a coffee in a shop rather than the price of an instant coffee at home out of a jar, you would probably then be more willing to put 1 or 2 or 3 in these. So if you did want a 12-ounce drink, then don't just use 1 pod. You probably need to use 2 or 3 to get that flavour profile that you'd get in the shop. so that you're getting closer to the origin of the coffee that you're trying to replicate from your coffee experience. So for us at BEAR.
And I feel like I need to own up. I'm a coffee roaster who doesn't drink a lot of espresso, just because it's just not my. I mean, I like heavy flavours. I drink way too much red wine, and I like that kind of flavour. But for coffee, I feel like sometimes it's too much, and so I will drink espressos if I'm in the particular mood, or if it's with food in particular. But just on its own, I just find it like a little bit too intense, and quite like piccolos and flat whites and things. But Nespresso pods aren't like an espresso almost. Mm-hmm. They're brewed a little bit cooler, the pressure profile's different, just the ratio of the diameter of the pod and the height of it means you get a slightly brighter extraction as well. And so I'll often drink those neat, even though I'll often not have that, or if I'm using like an 18 to 22 kind of normal kind of gram double shot, if I'm doing it on a traditional machine, I'll happily have an espresso pod, because it does, just from the way the mechanics of the design of the machine, it will produce a smoother coffee, and so you almost see it as like a very halfway between a filter and an espresso. So like you can kind of just drink it on its own and it's absolutely fine. And like I say, then maybe have another one and it's not taking your head off because you've still only used 11 grams of coffee.
Yeah.
So it's so yeah, it's almost seeing it as a slightly different kind of category in its own right.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you buy it thinking I'm gonna just recreate what I have when I'm drinking in like a 20-ounce double-handled thing in Costa. It's not going to taste like that, and it'll be hard to recreate a full thing. But like I say, if you want to do that, you can just use more pods.
Yeah.
But you can also just see it as a slightly different experience, and just you end up drinking shorter shots that are neater, and you get more of an understanding of the flavour of the coffee rather than covering up with loads of water and milk. So,
and like you said, it's a journey. So hopefully, after you've had these for a while, maybe you do decide that you love coffee and you know what kind of flavour profiles you like, and you invest in a more expensive machine that runs off whole bean, and you've got the grinder set up and you want to explore it a bit more. That's the journey that you can go down, but at least you're going down it educated to the point where you know what you like, so you're not just wasting your money, essentially. So use it for that and enjoy it.
Yeah.
So if you like these videos that we're doing, we're talking about pods, talking about coffee, if it's content that inspires you to come on this little bit of a journey with us, then subscribe, hit the link wherever it pops up around our heads, probably on top of Owen's head. Make it pop up on top of Owen's head. That'll be great.
I need something on my head.
Yeah, he definitely does. Maybe, here you go.
Thanks, mate.
Little pod. Put that on your head.
Like the tiniest white fez hat that's ever been.
There you go. So in summary, that's what pods are for. But yeah, please do subscribe. We're just having chats, and we'd love you to come on a journey with us.